I like that, huh?
30 layers.
I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which I stand,
And
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did somebody leave their radio? That looks like, oh, cheap.
They don't need one more.
Well, yeah, we'll
can't really.
cut it down to my phone.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, we need to just turn it on.
There's a lot we can do. We can do it all.
Yeah, thank you. Very disruptive.
You should just pick it up. Is anybody missing their radio?
One less radio, guys.
Can you come back?
At midnight.
Probably.
Okay,
Everyone's present. Brad said he was going to be online. I don't see.
anybody up
It's
there?
had some terrible back trouble.
There he is. Yeah. Oh, it's too bad.
Okay,
He's online?
Yes.
He is.
is there any public comment? Being none, we will move on to the minutes of September 5th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any corrections, additions, or comments? All those in favor? Okay, the minutes have been approved, and now we will move on to the treasurer's report.
Okay, so, your executive summary, just quickly on the left-hand side, it should say, September instead of August up there. So if you guys could just switch that up, it's just a typo, I apologize. So executive summary as of September 30, 2023. Fiscal year to date, the town has received revenue of 28,509,104, or 56.7% of the total amount of 50,276,744 budgeted for fiscal year 24. When comparing our performance to last fiscal year, we are exactly even with this time last year. You have the right one?
I don't know.
Yes, you're right there. Yes, you do.
Okay.
Is that? Yeah.
Click the wrong column.
It's in the wrong column. You're okay.
That happens a lot with Leanne too.
Okay. Next is the authorized investment section. As of the end of September, the town had 36.4 million in its bank accounts. The investment committee transferred 5 million in September from STIP into Webster for town payables and payroll. The investment committee is always watching the interest rates to make sure our money is making the most it can at any time. In the last month, the STIP rate has been moving around slightly, as you can see. We are at 5.39%, and today, STIP's rate is 5.41. And Webster has been great at giving us our STIP rate in arrears. Last month, it was 5.47%. I'm sorry, my little train of thought here on my notes, 5.47%. You can see the interest rates on all our accounts are moving up slightly, and that's good news for us. So on September 30th, we had our first short-term bond come due for the fiscal year 24 budget. We earned $35,741 of interest income. We reinvested that short-term bond of $2,150,000 for fiscal year 2025 into another short-term bond ladder. And we did better than we thought we were going to get Friday when we purchased on Monday at 5.527%, which is for the fiscal year 2025 budget. That will come due July 15th of 2024, and that is an interest income of $87,763 towards our interest income for 2025. So that's starting that roll when Leanne and Carl start the budget process. Okay, anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Then we'll move down to the pension plan. As of the end of September, we received the report from Morgan Stanley, really just Monday. The town's pension plan is down minus 2.87% fiscal year to date versus its benchmark of minus 2.53%. Over the 3-year horizon, the town plan has returned 3.14% versus its benchmark of 3.80%. The fire department pension plan is down minus 2.78% fiscal year to date and has returned 3.29% over the 3-year horizon versus its benchmark of 3.80%. To note, for fiscal year ending June 30, 2024, our pension is minus 2.87% versus the 60/40 benchmark, minus 3.24. Our pension is outperforming by 0.37 basis points. Also, we are moving more to bonds, as we had previously told you a few meetings ago in the pension. So it's a more conservative pension plan portfolio, as we have reported to you. Furthermore, the income from the pension portfolio has increased by approximately 8% over the last fiscal year and should continue to grow as we invest in higher yielding bonds. This helps provide security for the liability payments that we need to make for the pensioners' benefits. Any questions on the pension?
We're starting to extend duration on the bonds a little bit,
Right.
because the 10-year is getting a little bit more, some of the longer term bonds are getting a little more attractive, not just the shorter ones. And I think we already talked about this last time. We're making a significant portion of our pension payment, or much larger portion of our monthly payment to the pensioners with cash, with money that we're raising from our bond portfolio, which we weren't able to do, and not having to invade the stock part of the portfolio as much. What do you want to add on that?
No, I think that was
Okay.
Right.
great.
Thank you. So overall, our total cash balances were 36.4 million. Total pension balances were 26.6 million for total assets under management of 63 million in September. Page 2 of the treasurer's report shows the revenues broken out in more detail. Tax revenues were 139,274 for the month, bringing the fiscal year to date total to 28,509,104, or 56.7% of the amount budgeted for fiscal year 24. Interest income for the first quarter of fiscal year 24 was 253,000. In terms of local revenues, the town collected 316,481 in local revenue, or 56.7% again of fiscal year 24 budget, with Harvey's Beach exceeding their budget already by 34% of their budget, and golf fees at 85% of their fiscal 24 projected budget. The town is off to a great start in the first quarter. Any questions?
When does golf close?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know they were open this past weekend, soon, definitely, very soon.
I think they have limited hours, Bruce, after Labor Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it seems like it's on the weekends now.
Yeah,
Do they have a set date, or do they wait for it to get cold?
I don't know.
don't know.
I was just surprised because I had seen them close during the week and then I saw them open on the weekends.
I think part of that just staffing, because all the kids are back in school. So,
And, Park and Rec beaches anyway, make more of their money in July, August. I think about that, so that's one of the reasons I think Harvey's, you'll see the beach revenue be heavier at this point than May, June, which is the end of the fiscal year, so. So it gets front loaded a little bit.
That's all I have.
Okay, are there any questions for the treasurer? Then we'll move on to the finance.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna be quick, not many changes since last month. So far, fiscal year to date, we spent 15 million of our $50.3 million budget, or 30%, right about where we were at this point last year. So we had our first business, the Board of Finance approved 2,500 for the flags on the Main Street median. We had a town meeting tonight, and that was approved at town meeting. So that appropriation was added to this report for the first time and approved at tonight's meeting. Turning to page 2 of the Finance Director's report in the cash flow summary. General fund cash is at 14.5 million, and it's down $3.6 million over last month. Again, the activities in the general fund is due to the fact that we spent $3.9 million on expenditures. We had, as the treasurer just reported, about $300,000 worth of revenues. Capital funds are down $102,000 over last month. We've started to see some of the DPW name projects and the Park and Rec name projects, both those that were approved in the budget as well as those that have been recently approved as uses of surplus. So they're starting to purchase those things that have been approved. And the reserve funds are down $114,000. The biggest mover there came out of the fire department apparatus. We made our $107,000 payment on the fire trucks, which that's going to finally come due in 2030. So we've made 3 of our 10-year payments on the fire trucks so far. And on the non-major funds, again, down $88,000. Nothing unusual there. It was primarily due to paying our pension fund payroll, as it is typically each month. In the capital outlays, again, we didn't have too much movement here as well. The fire apparatus fund 3351 is down to $129,000. Again, we made that payment of $107,000. And we also saw some activity in some of the DPW and the Park and Rec named projects. So nothing unusual to report there. And nothing else to, on capital expenditures. We're off to a good start. We spent 373 of our 665,000. Spent a lot of money in highway and streets, which is good because we were behind the 8 ball a little bit last year. We had to put some surplus, open surplus funds to be used this year. So we're off to a good start there. And the pension fund is done. The ADC has been made, so that's all taken care of for the rest of the fiscal year. Can you say something?
On page 2?
Yeah.
Before you move on, item number, the first item below the bold line under municipal reserve fund, catastrophic illness. Just so you know, there's 2 payments we make now. And are they made in, heart and hypertension.
July,
2 settlements we had,
January.
trying to settle those cases is impossible, nearly impossible. We settled several of them. We put $70,000 a year aside for that. And we had to make some lump sum payments, and then now we're making yearly payments to 2 former cops. Public information, there's no secrets here. But that's why that balance, when you see it, is 221, even though we've been putting $70,000 a year aside towards it. There are probably 4 or 5 more police officers who are eligible for that fund, catastrophic heart and hypertension. So those claims will eventually ripen and will have to be paid out. And it's just very prudent to just keep putting the money aside for it. And hopefully we'll be able to manage it. Whether it's enough or not, I'm not sure what we put aside, but
What's the annual payout to the 2?
I want to say it's about 50,000. I think one gets 20 and one gets 30. So I think one gets, I know for a fact that one gets 20,000 a year for 12 years. And another one I think is getting got more on the upfront and, is getting, I want to say 30,000 a year for a shorter period of time, maybe 5 years or something. I'd have,
Remember it.
yeah,
They
I'd have to.
both receive an upfront payment.
I'm sorry?
They both received upfront
I
payments in
don't
addition to
believe,
the annual.
I don't believe the first one did. I think the total settlement was about 240. And then the way we structured the second one, we invaded this fund, for like 90,000, I want to say, upfront. And then there are $30,000 payments. I can get the details, but
Who negotiates those?
I'm sorry?
Who negotiates those?
So there is one law firm. So on the town side, we use a guy named Joe McQuaid, who is in Pat McHale's office. He does heart and hypertension work. On the plaintiff side, on the claimant side, there's a firm called Morrissey and Morrissey. What they do workers' comp and heart and hypertension. And they're out of Glastonbury. And they are the only firm that I've ever dealt with. They are the firm that kind of has a little bit of a stranglehold on this business. So. And then it's the workers' comp, it's a workers' comp, so it's the workers' comp commissioner that deals with this. So you've heard me talk about the firefighter cancer relief fund and the claims that could be coming out of there. And that's why CCM, and I was on a subcommittee to negotiate with the firefighters and the legislature to not have firefighter cancer be a presumptive illness in workers' comp. Because we said, it's just gonna jack up your workers' comp fees. Try to do the actuarial analysis on cancer claims. Try doing that. It's for, and nothing against the firefighters. So we were able to keep it out of the workers' comp claim at least this year. The state funded it to the extent of $5 million. The claims process for firefighter cancer still goes through the same process as workers' comp, but it's paid by the state. Actually, it's paid by the town, and the town gets reimbursed by the state. That's the way it works. But this way the legislation was written is if the state runs out of money, the town has no obligation to pay. But at that point, my concern is if the state doesn't, I don't want to belabor this point, further fund, if the state does not further fund that firefighter cancer relief fund, it's already set up in the workers' comp system, and they're just gonna say, oh, just put it there. That's my concern. But right now, we're good. We're gonna fight for the state to put in another deposit. I don't think you will have good numbers from an analysis point of view as to what the claims will be unless you have at least 5 years of claims on cancer, at least. Because you can get one claim, you can get smaller claims, and the list of cancers is everything that most of us will ever get, to be honest with you. From prostate cancer to lung cancer to, anyway, enough about that. But I just, that fund just sits there. You guys see it every month, and just thought I flagged it. That's all. All right.
So I don't have any other comments. Well, I do have a comment. There's nothing unusual about the budget. We're off to a good start. Everything's tracking the way it should be. And the only other thing I have for the finance director's report is I'm very pleased to announce that we've hired an assistant finance director. Amy Jensen, and she's going to hit the ground running. We're pretty excited to have her. She worked at both a town as an assistant finance director, and she also worked at a school in their finance area too. So we have some great experience. She's very happy to be here, and she just started yesterday. So I'm very pleased about that. So it's good. We got our bases covered, ready for our audit next month.
And we didn't rush in, Leanne didn't rush into that decision. We waited till we felt like we got a very solid, competent person. So.
I had a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Are you through the whole report?
I am.
Okay. I had a question on the public purpose transfer to $75,000?
Yeah.
Is that, one item or is it, just usage?
So the 75,000 is what we do typically in the budget every single year. We put 75, this is the Department of Public Works, their reserve for equipment for public works. And, so we put aside 75,000 every year, and that's what that was for. Now, recently, what we've been doing is we bought several pieces of large equipment. We took out a loan against that equipment, and then we've been paying that loan in May every year. So we're gonna make our last payment next May, and then we can buy some more equipment.
So one of the payments came out of 75, but the 75 is not totally for one piece of equipment,
Correct,
several pieces of equipment.
right.
Okay.
So it's just the amount that we put aside. So the loan happens to be just about 73,000, it's just about the same amount.
So just as we do with the fire department, in the budget, we have $175,000 towards their, or I think it's 175,
Yeah, almost.
to put towards equipment purchases. We did that, started doing that with Public Works probably like 5-6 years ago, to give them an opportunity to upgrade their equipment. And especially when interest rates were a little bit lower, we were operating in that world. It was easy to buy like multiple hundreds of $1,000s of equipment and then use this money that is on our budget to pay off loans and have a little bit of extra money left. So
Just a good budget.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Any other questions on finance director? If not, we will move on to the discussion and possible action on a 25,000 capital non-recurring appropriation request for the purpose of transitioning to a new time and attendance system.
Okay, thank you. It's hard to believe, but it's been 5 years since we had our time and attendance system. And it's doing everything that we wanted it to do. At first, there was a little bit of everybody kind of concerned that we were tracking them and whatnot, but the employees like it. They get to request time off. The people in accounting like it. We get to upload all of the time directly into our payroll system. It's really a great efficiency. When we did this RFP several years ago, we had 5 companies that applied. The top 3 were Kronos, Novatime, and Time Clock Plus. And we learned that Novatime has just sold itself to Kronos. And so they approached us and they said, we want you to transition over to Kronos. And we didn't really want to just take their word for it, that was the best thing for us to do. So we went back to our original RFP and we took a look again at Kronos and we took a look again at the other one, Time Clock Plus. And I was actually excited for Time Clock Plus because they are the preferred vendor of eFinance, who is our accounting firm. We did a complete review. Everything is the same. Again, very similar systems, Kronos, Time Clock Plus. And it really, once again, came down to the numbers. And Kronos, or the deal that they are offering us, Kronos is actually a much more expensive system, but in order to get us over there, they are locking in our price for 5 years. They're not going to charge us any training. Now, we are asking for $25,000 because in either case, no matter what we did, we have to buy new time clocks because they are not compatible with the new software system. So that of the $25,000, that is about $16,000-17,000. And again, there's a little bit of training, a little bit of implementation costs and things like that. So that's our request is for $25,000. Either way, we have to get a new system, no matter what. We recommend Kronos and the transition, and the request is for $25,000.
The 5-year contract.
And a 5-year contract, which is really great.
I have a question.
Yes.
Oh, I have a question. I see under timekeeping and attendance module, you talk about issuing 175 to 250 checks. By week.
Correct.
So this time and attendance system we're buying does not issue the checks.
It does not. It would tell us that XYZ employee with 40 hours at this rate. And then it's uploaded into our e-finance system, which then knows that employee, and it knows where to charge it, and it knows how to cut the checks. So it's a matter of keeping the time over here and then transmitting that file into the e-finance where we record it from an accounting perspective. And we do our payroll, make the direct deposits. Then from there, we further electronically do the transfer to the bank. So we really, the whole chain automated.
So the 175 to 250 checks, we're only talking about figuratively because we have electronic deposit on some of that, correct?
So, I get it now, yes. Everybody's required to be direct deposit. The only folks that aren't direct deposit are pensioners. And we didn't, if they already received a check, we didn't make them go direct deposit, but we encourage it. So the word check means their payroll. It does not, no, we don't cut any checks.
I was gonna say, that's a lot of work and you're saving a lot of work by having this system.
But we still are old fashioned, say cut a check, sorry. Direct deposit.
That's okay.
Good point, full time,
Just
yeah.
wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we caught that, yes.
Anybody else have any questions?
The training is unlimited on the Kronos.
Yes,
How industry wide is that?
That's
Because
the
what,
they're the leader, Kronos is the leader, they have their,
so are they alone in that? Because it's obviously a competitive advantage.
yes,
They're alone in that?
what do you mean by alone in that?
In offering
In the industry.
unlimited training.
Oh, no, that's,
Right,
so our provider is Novatime, and they are going to transition us to Kronos. And they are making this arrangement with us, they want us to go to Kronos, and they're gonna provide the training for us to go there. Novatime is gonna transition us to Kronos,
Was there a charge by the previous company for training?
yes.
It was.
Yes, by the previous company, meaning Novatime. Novatime
Yeah,
has
right.
never charged us for training. Time Clock Plus would charge us for training. When we went with Kronos, they would have charged us for training, and I asked them, Kronos was gonna charge us for training before, you're not gonna charge us for training, and he said, yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Didn't we have Cronus once before?
What?
Didn't we have Cronus once?
We
Been around
did that.
forever.
Yeah, they're pretty popular.
Well, we interviewed them. So this is. I
They
mean,
bought 'em up.
you haven't made a motion, yet, right?
No.
I know, but we make a motion, well, or
Make a motion, we go with Leanne's recommendation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
This takeover story has happened with a lot of our software vendors. Happened with Municity, it's happened with Time Clock, and there were,
E-finance right out the gate.
Right.
The Sun Garden.
oh, E-finance, right.
And then
And-
Power School.
So, I mean, it's just a fact of like the software industry or industry in general, I guess, there's takeovers, right? And, you know, so we're gonna have to go to a different system.
Can I, just for clarity's sake, on page 2, in the lower part of the chart where we've got, shouldn't that be Chronos and cumulative versus Novatime and cumulative?
Yes, it should be.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we're moving away from Novatime.
Yes, correct.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to item 9. Discussion and possible action on a reimbursable steep grant and capital recurring appropriation for the purchase of P25 compatible radios for the fire department.
So, this has had a little bit of a history, before this board. I think you've, had discussions with fire chief, previously about these radios. The ARPA committee has had discussions with the fire department about these radios. And we've kind of held off a little bit, hoping that a FEMA grant would come along. And it did not come along last year. Obviously, we do have an application in this year for the FEMA grant, still. When the steep grants were announced a couple months ago, We recognize the opportunity that we might be able to apply for this through the STEEP grant. Clinton, the town of Clinton had previously done this for radios. We did not have a quote unquote shovel ready project to go. So Park and Rec has lots of projects. They have Clark Park where they have a much grander plan, but it is not designed. And so I've told Ray, move forward with that design. Let's be ready for it next time. So it can be part of an application. So this was kind of in our back pocket, ready to go. Obviously, the fire chief has worked on several applications, so it was basically cutting and pasting, essentially. And Jennifer Donahue helped a lot with this. We made the application. The beauty of STEEP grants is their turnaround is super quick. I think the application was in August. Here we are in October. The announcements came out. Fully, the full amount, it's a maximum of 500,000. And I am going to, I'd like to, Mr. Chair, recognize the fire chief, if he'd like to be heard on this. And of course, the police chief is here and he's also a member of the fire department.
Yes, thank you, Carl. Thank you very much for letting us do this. And big thanks to Jennifer Dunning for helping compile all the information and put it on the application. I was able to feed her all the information based on the other grants that we had and all the write-ups that we already had. So it kind of fell in line with it. Going back to just over a year, about a year ago, right, we came to the Board of Finance meeting to discuss the issues with our portables and how they're failing. My portable is right here in front of you. I can show you afterwards. My portable especially has a broken antenna. The knobs are broken on the microphone. I keep mine broken that way because my priority is the guys that are going inside. They should have a better radio than me, just in case anything happens. At the recommendation of board member Swan, he asked us to go investigate other batteries. We purchased the batteries. None of them work. They all failed. They all chirp every time you talk on them. You charge them for days on end. You put them in the radio. After about 10 minutes, they start beeping at you, saying low voltage. So I took them all out of service, got rid of them. I didn't feel like members were safe with them. It's a false security of it chirping with the low battery, low voltage alarm. We also talked to other departments out there at the recommendation of the last meeting about possibly going to a different vendor for radios. Every department that I talked to, and they asked to remain anonymous, because I talked to firemen, not the head members. I talked to firemen that were using the radios, and they all went from Motorola to another company, and some of them are already going back to Motorola, or they're still with the other companies, and they just don't like the radios. They're breaking left and right. They're always out of service. So we really stuck with Motorola, the APX 8000 XE radio. It's upgraded to the one that we had. There's no plans of it being discontinued. They've only been out for 5 years. Yes, they do have a newer model, but they're not dual band radios. What we're looking at, they're single band radios that Motorola has. So I spoke to the vendor today, and they still have, like, there's nothing in writing at all about these radios being discontinued anytime soon. When they do announce it, could be 10 years down the road that they support them for another 5 years after that, and whenever the parts run out. What we did last time with all of our radios, and we were able to replace parts for so long after they discontinued, is we pre-bought all the parts, antennas, the button, the extended microphones, which we have plans to continue to do that, just to have parts here just in case. They're all fireman proof. They do break. Things do happen during training. They do get smashed or whatnot. So it's acceptable, and we understand it's not like we throw those portables around or anything else like that. So we got a bid from Motorola and Norcom, which is on state contract. The total amount is $585,887.78. That's the state contract price. They're currently estimating 22 to 26 weeks before the portables will actually show up into Naugatuck. And then they would be programmed from there. We've already put the legwork out a while ago to get like the downloadable file so you can build our banks ahead of time so you can actually look at them and have the members look at them and understand how the banks will work. That's all I really have. Any questions?
how old are your current radios?
These ones were 15 years old when we got the radio system. And I talked to Norcom and they were out for 10 years about before we even bought into them. So it's about a 25-year portable about that we, from the time that they've been out before they end of life done.
And talk about, just a little bit about dual band.
So the dual band is, currently we operate in the 450 band, which the town of Old Saybrook does and Town of Clifton does. We're on our own band. And the other part is the 800 band, which is the P25 state radio system, which all of our mutual aid partners are in the process of, or have already switched over to. And they're cross matching from the 800 band down to the 400 band. So like if anyone listens to a scanner, you hear like Deep River talking, they sound muffled. That's because they're going from the 800 band back down to their 400 band and they're cross patching it in. More and more towns around the state of Connecticut are going to the B25 system because they're not required to keep up on their own radio infrastructure. They're just signing on to the state towers throughout the state. Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, why don't we, just a little bit talk about the state system? And you've referenced that a few times. I don't know if the chief or chief want to talk about the state system a little bit.
So I'll just give it to you in a 30-second nutshell. So the state of Connecticut has obviously a emergency communication radio system that's built out throughout the state. State police use it. Ricky, I'm sure, uses it in his capacity. Some of our federal partners are actually on that. I'm sure they cross-patch and cross-band with you. The frequency range that they're in is not ideal for fire department operations. So our firemen work inside buildings generally. Your police officers work outside buildings generally. And so the 800 megahertz system, the 700-800 megahertz system is not ideal for interior structural firefighting operations, which is what these guys do day in and day out. The state of Connecticut right now, they spent a lot of money building out a very successful radio system. And they're offering municipalities, hop on it. Don't build the tower, like we have our own. Don't worry about repeaters. We got you covered. I think at some point, when everyone has signed on to this, the state is going to come back to the town and say, hey, you're on our system. Our capital maintenance plan now is X, Y, and Z. And so all of you owe this money every year because the system is going to have to get refreshed. We're refreshing locally. They're going to have to refresh statewide. And so I've been very reluctant to, as the person that's in charge of the radio system for Old Saybrook, to leave our own infrastructure that we're in charge of, that we make sure is operable, that we really have our thumb on, because it's a life safety factor for all of your public safety professionals, and join a conglomerate that we really have zero control over and is not on the best frequency spectrum for us. And so obviously I support Chief Johnson's efforts in refreshing their portable radios. Line of reference, when we voted the referendum on the Kate was the same referendum for these radios. That was a while ago, right? And so that's a good frame of reference. It is definitely time for the fire department to refresh all their radios. One of the things I know the chief will say in his closing, so I'll steal it from him. One of the top 2 reasons of firefighter death on the fire ground is poor communication. And so we are so fortunate in Old Saybrook that we still have a very robust volunteer fire department, and we are not paying, like a lot of communities around us are paying for fire protection and fire service. There shouldn't be any doubt in anyone's mind when the fire chief comes to a meeting and stands up and says, we need this for safety. It should be, thank you for your service, no problem. In this case, $500,000 of a $585,000 bill is going to be covered. Kudos to you.
You do need a watch for your 30 seconds, by the way.
That's fine. Some people ramble on in emails or in public.
Keep done.
So,
Hold on, Rick.
I don't know. So, to the chief's point, believe it or not, I agree with what he has to say.
That's a lot.
Now you can leave, chief, thanks, I don't need you anymore. I disagree on one thing, and it's a concern, but if the fire department's gonna manage it as such, then so be it. The difference between a digital radio, which the 800 system is, and the 400 system is, for those of you that have scanners,
and you'll hear somebody say, you know, how do you read me? And they say weak but readable or scratchy but readable. With a digital, you either have it or you don't have it. So if you're in a building and you can still get that message out on your 400 band, it might be scratchy, but they can tell in your voice that there's an issue. If the signal in the digital doesn't get out, it doesn't get out, period. So, I mean, as long as everybody understands that, they're gonna manage it at their level as far as fire ground operations. As the chief says, outside and not inside, I'm worried about liability purposes. I applaud them for doing the money that they are, because it's stupid money nowadays for these radios, and they covered the biggest nut of it, so I congratulate them for that. My only concern would be going with dual bands. It's in one radio. It's not like you had two radio, one goes down, you still got the other one, they both go down. But it's how they're gonna be used is the question.
Which is operational and up to the fire chief.
Right. That's a concern, but it's a liability on the town that we'd be,
So locally in Saybrook, we're only gonna stay on our frequency, it's only going to Mutual Lake. Essex, they're in the process of switching, I think they already purchased stuff, they're just waiting for it to come in, full line has switched, and I think they're in the middle of it. Deep River has switched, I don't even know if they're finished switching over, like, they piecemealed it together, and with our radio system, we tested in basements of every house. I think we spent a whole weekend, if not longer, going into places. So we know the two weakest parts in our town are is in the basement of Saybrook Point Inn and the basement of the house on Walters Point. Everywhere else, we have radio coverage for ourselves
In the basement.
in the basements. It's gonna be a training curve for us, no doubt, absolutely. But ours is always gonna be on the 400 band frequency just for us locally. If we go Mutual Aid, we do a lot of it. Everyone here sees it. We switch to that bank anyways. That bank's gonna be their 800 band frequency.
Yeah, so with regard to the state system, I've been to several presentations on it. If at some point it becomes a decision that the town has to make, the Board of Finance has to make in terms of investment, I'd probably recommend either a subcommittee or at least further education with Clayton Norgrave or Northgrave, I forget his name.
Yeah.
Coming down to, he can discuss it, he can answer questions, maybe we get everybody in a room. So that everybody has an opportunity to say, but this, but that, no, this, that. So that way you don't get stories from over here and over here. So we're not quite there yet, but issue at hand is steep grant for these radios with 84,000 coming from the capital non-recurring fund.
There's a question. Chief Johnson, are we saying that the 400 band, you can get out of the basement to the truck, or you can get out of the basement to a repeater somewhere, right?
Right to a dispatcher, out of a repeater, out of one of our 3 sites.
Where's your dispatcher?
Huh?
Where's the dispatcher?
PD.
Okay, so from the basement to the PD is what you're looking to make the contact for?
Yep.
Isn't it a local truck, closer than the PD?
We haven't done repeaters in Saybrook in 17 years.
So
we got rid of that.
The truck doesn't talk directly to the portable radio.
You can, but through our radio system, our towers do it, not truck to truck. Or it's not a repeater as a truck to us.
So we have 3 listening sites and 2 transmit sites. 2 listening and transmit sites are in Old Saybrook. 1 listening site is in Westbrook to take care of Northern Am Hill, Northern Schoolhouse Road. Before we asked the town to make the original investment in 2008, 2008, we actually spent an entire weekend. This is what Chief Johnson was alluding to. We put together teams with 400 band radios and sent them around the town and knocked on doors and said, can we go in your basement and test? And so we did that every single part of the town of Old Saybrook. Generally, the vendor can do a coverage map and say, we'll guarantee you 90% coverage in 90% of the area. That was not good enough for the current public safety chiefs. And we sent people to houses, businesses, and made sure that we actually had boots on the ground, the people that respond to emergencies in Old Saybrook, confirming that they had that signal. We did that for 2 reasons. 1, to make sure we were buying the right system. And 2, as we were translating from a very, very, very old radio system to new technology, we wanted our public safety professionals to have confidence in the system. And so during a blue sky day, when there's no emergency, and you're in the basement, you're testing. Now, if you're in the basement fighting a furnace fire, you know that if you have to call a mayday in for yourself, it's going to reach the dispatcher who follows a protocol, who contacts the incident commander to make sure that we go in and save that volunteer firefighter's life.
But if there's a truck in the area, it should receive the signal also, right?
So the truck receives a radio signal like every portable does. So it's not portable radio to truck to dispatch center.
Tower.
It's portable radio to tower to system wide.
I think Deep River and Essex are the only department, correct me if I'm wrong, right, you may know. I think those are the only two towns now that still use meters in their trucks.
Two other questions here. Since we're a county, Middlesex County, does everybody in the county want to get on board? So we're all operating on the same frequency?
Yeah, let me head that off at the pass. We don't have county government. No, and I understand, I'm not making fun of you in any way, but
Not taken.
it's more, who is going to it. It has nothing to do, there's nothing county other than the courts. The courts are county.
The mutual aid is county.
Mutual aid is, okay. Mutual aid is by county?
Well, yes and no. I mean, you guys go to East Lyme as their RIT team. East Lyme is not in Middlesex County. So,
Right.
But the question, you're saying, are they going to the newer system, to the 800
I'm just
system?
saying, or everybody in the county gonna be going this way, you know?
No, I know
Well-
Clinton's not, Madison's not, and we're trying not to as hard as we can,
They're not what?
going to the state system.
Yeah.
They have their own radios.
I mean, the 400, everybody, you know,
Oh, no, so we have our own 400 band, Clinton has their own, Madison has their own. All of the rest of the towns around us were on Valley Shores 400 band, which they have sites all over Middlesex County. Most of them have switched over to the P25 system. Not all of them, most of them have. I think Killenworth is still on the 400 band because they went to a meeting and said, hey, are you guys gonna go to the P25 system? Everyone said, no. They bought their portables. 2 months after they got the portables, people started going.
okay, and then now we have the police department, the ambulance, the town crew, and the fire department.
all the
They all
same.
talk to each other.
Absolutely.
On the 400.
All day long.
If I had an issue and I needed a cop, I can pick up a radio on my car and call the police department on their frequency and unlike the other towns, they have to call Valley Shore has to call Two-Path has to call, it's a big circle.
Understand that. But I wanted
So
to-
you're gonna be operating on other people's frequency, not our own.
No,
I don't know.
I don't know,
An 800 band.
yeah, I don't know, like, no, so, yeah, if we go mutually, we'll be operating on their chart,
Right,
yeah.
we're not-
sorry,
You're not going for your own frequency.
We're not.
No. Sorry, yes, that's.
Because there are other ones that are open to you right now anyway, including Middlesex County. and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
but our 800 band will just be operating on like Essex or Old Line or Vine,
Yeah,
not
okay.
on our own.
How many radios are you replacing?
All of them, 62 or something like that.
And portables, how many portables?
Oh, it's all portables, 62 portables. We're not replacing any base stations or any mobiles. All of our mobiles are fine. Everything else, it's just the portables.
You have 800s in the trucks already.
No, we do not. No, so we applied for the grant for those. Like that was never part, like the mobile radios were never part of our original plan. It was always the portables. Our mobile radios are perfectly fine. There's no issues at all. I hate to spend an extra $300,000 on mobile radios that we don't essentially need at the moment, you know.
I mean, if you're going mutual aid, you can
Yeah.
use your dual band portable to talk to wherever you're going,
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
And what are the old ones gonna be done with? What are you gonna do with the old ones?
Honestly, whatever the town might wanna do with them, might be able to salvage parts out of some of them. A lot of them are like really bad.
So we'll do
I
one for one
think,
and do it on gov deals or
We
something.
haven't really decided, but I know the ambulance has like no portables, they've lost every single one of them, so I can scrounge up 4 of them for their duty crews to have in their trucks, because they go to calls and they don't have a portable on, sometimes they keep the cops there and, or they need something outside.
But if we find 10 good ones after making them all together or something, I'd probably take a couple for a shelter operation if we needed it. I was borrowing his radios during like the COVID clinic and stuff like that, but generally next to the women's club flower sale, you can set a table up with those, but I mean, it's,
Yeah, I was gonna say, the man in the middle.
So one of the benefits, you asked about repeaters and going to the dispatcher direct. One of the biggest benefits about going direct to the dispatcher, this year especially, since last December, there's 7 on the East Coast line of duty deaths where the dispatcher caught the mayday. the incident commander was not aware of it. It was a really, really brutal, scathing line of duty death in Buffalo. The incident commander had no idea what was going on. The dispatcher heard it and called him on the radio. 95% of AAs are picked up by the dispatcher, completely missed by the incident commander. So going to the rig especially, you're not gonna have the pump operator's not gonna hear anything over the pump, the noise, the fire ground, anything. It's a huge safety factor having the dispatcher sitting there going, hey, what was that? Command, did you hear that? That's a huge blanket for us from a safety standpoint. Especially not even on fires, on the highway. We miss a lot just from background noise. People in your face, a lot of things happening, and that's a really good, comfortable blanket to have. Somebody's dedicated, sitting there, just listening to what's going on.
So Chief Spirit, you still have the box in the back of your car and multi-task force there?
We both do.
So he's going too? Okay.
And there's been times where I'm working out of the back of his truck, there's been times he's working out of the back of my truck, so it's a system that's worked well for, I think, long and cheap. 6 years? Been cheap for 6 years. No, it's been working for a really, really long time.
So, if you have to talk to somebody that's not on the 400 band, is it just a flip of the switch on the portable?
Yeah, that was, dial, yeah.
Right, so you don't have to go to your box and.
No, no, it's all done by hand and little buttons on the screen that you change zones and flip over to and stuff like that.
I'm done, thank you.
Anybody else?
Just quickly, Chief Hyman,
Sir.
you're at Valley Shore, correct?
My brother was at Valley Shore.
Oh,
However,
The other 20.
yeah, that was the other one.
sorry.
No. I work as a career firefighter in another municipality, and I have extensive use of several different radio brands.
Okay. Yeah, good, thank you.
Could I have somebody, make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
So do we, point of order, I mean, do we
For
want?
the 85,
What?
for the 85.
Yeah, do we want to break the motion up?
Well, I should just, it's broken up here.
Okay,
If they state it that way. that would be
Yeah.
Great.
Read it, yes.
but I'm wondering if it should be two different.
That's fine, whatever you want to do. I mean,
I prefer that.
Would you? Why? Because it's for the total,
Yeah, one's just, they're entirely, I'm sorry, I probably should have
one's
caught
to
that.
approve the steep.
Yeah.
grant, And then the other is to approve
Make an
our,
appropriation out of a capital non-recurring account. Just from a process point of view, I think it'd be cleaner at town meeting, and I should have caught that, you put it in front of me, and I let it go through, so. It's still right in front of you, I would just, I think.
Two separate?
I prefer that.
Okay. How about, motion number one, the purpose of this approval is for the Board of Finance to enter into a grant for the amount of $500,000 for the purchase of radios for the old Saybrook Fire Department to a tune of up to $500,000. Through the steep grant.
Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
I think Eric, did you, or did you?
John,
Well, I did the first one, he just did that one. So his was a new motion,
Okay.
mine was an old second.
So you're an old second.
John, you were not an old second.
Old second, I'm an old loving house.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed. John, would you like to make the second motion?
Oh, okay, I gotta read this now. To appropriate $84,654 from the capital non-recurring account for the purpose of purchasing P25 compatible radios for the old Saybrook Fire Department. Further to move this appropriation to town meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So the plan is for this to go to the Board of Selectmen, probably put it on the annual town meeting. November, I want to say 25th, which is a Monday, whatever that Monday is, 4th Monday of November.
27.
I don't know that there's any particular urgency to have it done much before then. I planned on doing this and the Cape one Oh, and you have your time of attendance too. Can you wait for that? Yeah. I mean, we could do a town meeting before then, but that's a town meeting that's scheduled, nothing particularly controversial here. I think it'll go smoothly, and then we'll do the town reports. So that would be the plan. Okay? Just telling this board.
Okay, the motion has been approved.
Just, now that we approved it, I just wanted to, thank Chief Johnson for his persistence on this. It's been, more than a year that you've been looking for a way to get this done. And the idea of getting so much of it done, through a steep grant is just tremendous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can you also tell us what the score was of the softball game?
Yeah, it was terrible.
I forgot.
I didn't catch, I'm just gonna say that.
What happened before the diving cat game?
You can't say that name.
No, it's after.
Oh, you must have.
I almost did a home run. Thank you very much.
Almost doesn't count.
Ricky, let me tell you something. If it bounced the other way, I was taking off my shoes and leaving. I was done. Totally done.
It was a great event though. too.
Thank you. Yeah. There's gonna be a three-way series next year, so.
Good.
Not even involved public works, we're not sure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, you gotta get them practicing like they practice kickball.
Why is it raining?
We didn't practice. I didn't even stretch.
It was fun. It was a good day. They did a good event.
Okay, so we will now move on to item 10. Discussion and possible action on. Pardon?
The comedy show left.
On a 50,000 ARPA appropriations.
So this was an item that came to the ARPA committee last week, which was approved by the ad hoc ARPA committee. So this is for the Kate's humidification system for their museum pieces that house the Catherine Hepburn dresses and stuff, pictures and whatever they have. And it's acquiring this humidification system will allow them to acquire more precious pieces, more rare pieces. I guess Kent State, I want to say Kent State is like Catherine Hepburn center of the world. And the Kent State College is willing to loan things, but only certain things right now. And I believe this would open up the Kate to have more rare items from the Hepburn collection.
Right, that's exactly, that was the point that Brett was making when we talked to the ARPA committee, so that they're delighted with what they have, but they know there's more out there, but they can only bring these traveling exhibits if they have this kind of temporary incubator. And so we talked about it and highly recommended going forward.
The museum's been quite successful for a little museum. It's beautiful. It really is. It's something to go into. Whether you're into it or not, whether you're into Catherine Hepburn or not, it's so well done. It's not overwhelming. It's, it's confined, but it's just a really nice space. That whole remodel they did during COVID was a home run for the Cape. So, I'm a supporter of this. So, for this again, if it comes out of here, we've done all the ARPA approvals that have gone to the ARPA committee. Once they come out of the ARPA committee, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, town meeting, because they are public funds, and that's the most transparent way to do it. So that's the way we've done all the others. The ARPA committee is back hard at work again. Thank you, Brad and Bruce. And we hope to have some other items to come before the board, perhaps in 6 months or so. Let's not forget, the money has to be basically assigned by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026. So I think the ARPA committee will have some further recommendations for you, probably in 2024 is my guess.
Well, we've got a couple that are traveling through right now, because the Little League was in, and then what we want to do about that ambulance. So my guess is we'll have a couple of our ARPA recommendations that could also go to that November, town.
Good, yeah, that's smaller ones.
Yeah,
Smaller
pieces.
So,
Wasn't there a previous,
yes,
what was the previous,
for the Cape,
yes,
there's
the,
$100,000
From ARPA, right?
to build the museum, yes.
no, to build the museum originally?
What are you saying from ARPA?
Yes,
That was a reimbursement for lost revenue. But
okay,
Oh,
yeah, okay,
yes, yeah, well, technically it was a reimbursement for lost revenue. Correct.
okay.
Can somebody make the motion?
I have a question.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Make the motion, then I'll have a question.
You make the motion. Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Okay, now I'll ask you a question.
okay. This is the first time that it's been brought to the Board of Finance. First time it's been presented. What I'm getting at is that, I'm trying not to have stuff come into the Board of Finance. and
Yeah.
Vote on it that particular night. So I know we've had some discussion about this and ARPA reviewed this previously. So I just want to reinforce, my point of view that, we don't want to be boxed in on some things.
Yeah, so I know that, and, the board in the past has granted some exceptions. I feel like this is maybe a little different because it's ARPA funding. We've been relatively, I think, respectful
Pretty good.
of that. Well, I mean, it's true that we have boxed you in on a few things. I'm not gonna say we haven't,
That's fine.
in fairness.
Yeah.
But
Urgency is important.
But yeah, right, but for the most part, we do try to flag items, 2 to 4 weeks in advance and discuss them. And for that reason, Tom, because it's been ingrained, by you or it's been stated by you several times, and I think the board appreciates that. The board does want to see things in advance.
Things have changed a little bit because not that we print stuff out at our residences or anything, but sometimes we take a look at stuff because it's emailed to us before we get here. So that kind of like offsets the 2 weeks that we need
Yeah.
sometimes, you know.
Yeah, but no, we try to respect the 2 week, the note, let's just call it notice, not 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's more notice.
I mean, between one meeting and the next.
I'll be honest with you, I mean, we're not gonna do the call for the annual town meeting probably before the next 2 weeks. I mean, I'll leave it to the board. I mean, it's up to the board.
But I have no issue with this.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to bring it up that I don't recall having this brought to us before.
So with that being said, what are the possible other ARPA items that we discussed that might that public meeting, so we can discuss them?
So we had a, discussion with the Little League, came in and they, COVID hit them hard and that, both from a loss of sponsorship as well as loss of players and,
Equipment.
and equipment, because then they put the equipment in a box and the box got wet and, so they lost a
I
certain
thought it
amount.
was, which entity was it?
This is the Little League.
Little League,
Oh,
Old
Little
Saybrook Little League, yeah.
And so as a result of that, our committee, because one of the priorities we have is trying to, assist on youth sports, because with COVID, you want to get people outside and doing those kinds of things. So, they came in with one direction. It was getting confusing for members of the committee, so we suggested that rather than, trying to become a pretzel in this discussion, come back to us with a straightforward, this is what the Old Saybrook Little League needs to move forward, to get us back to where we were, and then, and so and we have an open invitation. If they're ready to do that at our October meeting, which is 4th Tuesday in October, that's great, or at a later meeting. But I think we have enough momentum. We'll probably see them in October.
And that could be about 20 grand approximately, give or take.
Exactly. And then, we did get a request from the, and if we've heard about, and Carl may know more about this, but the Ambulance Association is looking for, some paving work, right?
Paving work, that's town property, and they might be, Yeah, there's some paving work that they wanted to do.
Again, not a lot of dollars associated with
I
that,
think
but
maybe about 20 again.
yeah, but we've heard it coming through the grapevine, but we don't have a formal application in front of us yet. Good,
Just to kind of give you a heads up on what might be coming down the pipe.
thank you.
What's the balance?
Well, we went into the last meeting, a week ago with about 1.2, a little over 1.2 million, and with the money for the Cape, and if we did both of these other things, that would be about 100,000, so we'd be down to about 1.1.
You think you'll get to the bottom of that?
Yes, we have some good ideas, and I think this is one of the things that Carl was referencing, is that there are areas where we would like to, make a substantial difference. One of those is in Parks and Rec, and some of the projects that they have proposed that are on hold because there just hasn't been funding for them. So we're looking at those. Another is in the whole issue of, could we use some of this money to incent a developer for affordable or attainable housing to come into town and to build that. And so we're looking at a variety of different projects against which we could put this money, but we don't have them right in front of us yet.
So maybe like 3 buckets. So if we end up with 1.1 million, say, here's 3 buckets. This is what the ARPA committee is going to recommend that this money be allotted to. Hopefully by the end of 2024, we'll get there. And if we don't get there, that money will have to be reallocated by the ARPA committee, whether it goes to Brooklyn. Yeah, let's not go there yet, but we're looking at buckets to kind of just say, we're not going to nitpick the rest of this money, 20,000 at a time, 50,000. Let's do something a little bit more splashy.
Substantial.
So, substantial is probably a better word. So we're talking about maybe even going to the Connecticut Department of Housing and saying, hey, if we're willing to put up X number of dollars on this, can you help us either find a developer, or maybe there's funds available? Then we can go to a developer and say, here's a package and here's a location where we'd like to see some growth. And one of those locations is Mariner's Way. So, there are ways for us to move the needle, and that's kind of what we're looking to do.
This is off topic, but speaking of Parks and Rec and this, when we approved funding for them, they moved very quickly. All the projects that we approved last meeting are either done or the pieces have been ordered. Scoreboard, of course, are resurfaced, bleachers ordered. I mean, they move very quickly when they're given the funds.
Great.
So
Okay, all those in favor of item number 10?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion has passed. Selectmen's report.
Very quickly. Main Street Park across the street is out to bid. We had a pre-bid meeting Monday, 10 a.m. And the bids will be opened, I think, a week from Thursday. We'll see what that brings us. So that is the piece of property between the pickleball courts and the police department. The HVAC for town hall, that there was a new appropriation. There was 175 in there. I think we appropriated another 50.
220, 245 or something like that.
50 or so, at the August, surplus meeting. We awarded a contract, the low bidder at about 190, plus we have about 25 to 30,000 in electrical that needs to be done prior to it going in, but all the money is there. It's about the right amount of money, but that bid has been awarded. That is something Dan worked on. Dan Moran, who has fallen a little bit ill, improving. But Dan worked on this a lot. So I'm looking forward to being able to tell Dan that this project actually is not concluded, but has reached the finish line for the most part. We had our first Celebrate Saybrook 2024 meeting about a week ago. Registration is open. for next year. And we already have vendor inquiries and vendor registrations occurring. Probably at least 2 or 3 so far. I think we'll have a lot of interest in that, but we're all set for that, or moving along on that. I'm sitting on the MIRA, the former, MIRA, Materials Innovation and Recycling Authority, Dissolution Authority. I'm sitting on that, which should be a blast. And we had our first meeting last Wednesday. I'll be chairing one of the subcommittees that will be looking to, right now, there's about 22 towns that still operate under MIRA contracts through June 30th, 2027. Those contracts will not be broken. If we need MIRA to service our garbage, and that is just outsourcing it essentially, not burning it, just finding a vendor to take the garbage away. They'll do it. And the prices are set. We know what we're gonna get charged for it. I'll be chairing a committee, and the 22 towns are basically the Essex transfer station towns. So that is Deep River, Old Saybrook, Essex, Chester, just a bunch of towns in this area. And then the other towns are in the northwestern part of the state. So I'm gonna be chairing a subcommittee that is going to be encouraging those 2 areas, those 2 sections of the state, to find a different solution other than MIRA. There's a bunch of moving pieces there, but that MIRA Dissolution Authority had their first meeting last Wednesday. And so that I'll keep you updated on that. The Acton Public Library has submitted a grant for a $5 million expansion at the library. Started with the feasibility study that was approved through the Department of Agriculture grant, right? Then based on that, they hired an architect that was paid for through the Tucker Fund. There's still about over $1 million left in the Tucker Fund. The $5 million expansion, they're applying for a $2 million grant. There's $1 million in the Tucker Fund. The idea would be to fundraise $1 million, and maybe the town bonds $1 million. So it's not as hard a number to do what? There's a design, and you'd have to see the design. So it's to modernize the library, change the interior, change the guts of the library a little bit.
No footprint expansion.
No. No, there's nowhere, there's really not a place to expand. Yeah, pretty tight. So, but let's just, maybe, maybe I can even get Amanda in at some point. Certainly during the budget process, she'll be in to talk about it. But maybe we can get a brief presentation as to what it looks like and put it up on the screen. And then lastly, as you know, there have been 2 retirements announced. Both Julie Pendleton and Jan Ferruccio have indicated they're retiring. They're not resigning and moving somewhere else. Julie early in 2024 and Jan in March of 24. That's the plan right now. So I'll leave it at that for now.
On the dissolution of MIRA, is there a subcommittee to talk about the multiple millions of dollars that are sitting in their bank account? And
that would be the South Meadows site subcommittee to look at how best to remediate that site and to remediate it to what standard. Do you remediate it? You can't really remediate it to a residential standard. And so be to remediate it to reuse it somehow. That was an Eversource coal plant.
Yeah.
Before MIRA decided to burn it. So the pollution there is significant. That would be, it is one of the subcommittees.
But it's not money that we think the town will have.
The money will not come back to the towns. In fact, it's written into the statute that the towns shall not get any more money from MIRA. That money is gone.
That will do.
Gone to the city of Hartford. maybe rightfully so. Look, we burned trash there for 30 years. We sent our trash there. Maybe that is in fairness to the residents of Hartford to try to repurpose that property. So there is an argument for that.
I had a couple questions.
Tom's very good. He goes through the chair. I like that. No, but he goes through the chairman.
Well, we tried to.
I'm sorry?
We tried to
Yeah.
follow courtesy. Anyway, how's the pavement going down to Cornfield Point and
Done.
paving on the Old Post Road, and we're gonna cut up in any more roads?
Cornfield Point is done, and there was one resident who called me to have a request for a driveway apron, and that got done, and that was it. We're out of there. It's probably the least I've heard after a paving project in a long time. Old Post Road, right around Meadowood was a disaster when you go in there in terms of water. So as they were digging up that road, they found pipes that were broken and a lot of so there's some additional costs in terms of doing some of the drainage work there. The binder course is going in Friday on Old Post Road. All the drainage work should be done by then. The Trask Road area is going to get paved. That's going to be one of the projects based on Mr. Swan's recommendation. But Bill is he's gonna have to do some drainage there. So he's gonna do that. He's gotta figure, as Bill said, I gotta figure out where the water's gonna go. So he's working on that, and then it'll get paved. And after that, I'd have to get back to you.
Well, any idea they're gonna do any sanding or oiling on some of the roads this year at all? Or that was it?
Chip seal.
No, chip seal, you mean?
Well, chip seal or just oil the roads and put sand on top and need that stuff, okay.
Chip seal is a very, so we chip sealed a neighborhood about 7-8 years ago. It's the last chip seal we've done. I had residents in that neighborhood tell me I ruined their retirement because all they heard in the morning was crunch, crunch, crunch. I had people tell me they can't walk their dogs anymore. I had people show me pictures of their grandchildren and their bleeding knees when they fell off the bike.
Wow.
Off your bike on asphalt, your knees are gonna.
We've gotten away a little bit from chip seal.
And
Questions?
True.
and another question.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
How we doing with the lighting authority? We're still in the black on that in reference to
Yes.
hiring somebody to come in to change the bulb.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's working out very well. The light-
Very good.
So every year, I'm glad we're saving money on it.
Yeah, we are. No, that's, by the way, how about when you drive over the Amtrak bridge?
It's awful. I can't
It's
take it.
purple. And those are the
Gets me
states.
every time.
It's unreal. It's just like, wow. It's like,
But the ones on the other side are not like that.
it's like a
You go
disco.
past Mystic Market.
Coming over, as you come over the Baldwin Bridge though, they're like that too. Anyway,
Speaking of Public Works Director situation, where are we with that?
still on paid administrative leave. We are, negotiating a return. Let me say that.
Okay, internal investigation is complete.
Completed, and, there has been no corroboration of any of the most serious allegations. Okay, 0. So, that was farmed out independently for a reason. Obviously, I didn't want to do it. So we had an attorney do it from Birch and Moses. And that lawyer came back. So, Larry and the union and I met and we're, figuring out a return. That's really all I'm gonna say at the moment.
Any timeline on it?
Soon, this month, no, this month,
October.
yes,
So that's good.
oh yeah, this month.
Public Works sign.
Yeah, I brought that up several times. I have followed up on that. And I will again. I mean, every meeting you bring up, I follow up on it.
Now that Main Street Park is out to bid, when will Jeff Jacobson
He's
start
working on
working
it.
on Main
He
Street?
is, he's working on
No,
it.
on Main Street.
He is,
Oh,
he's working on that. I
what's
promise
the
you.
timeline on that?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I mean, so I can give you, even if he's working on it right now, that project, you'd be lucky to get that project built in 2024. Even if it was, the design is complete by the end of this year. By the time DOT reviews it, permits, maybe the fall of 24 is what I would say.
Is there a way to phase that in? I was just
Yeah.
in Charlottesville and they had the blinking lights for when people want to cross the crosswalks. And it was great. I sent them, said, this is exactly what we want to do. So yeah, it's a big project and I understand that, but I think just having those lights
Yeah,
would be a
right.
huge difference. And I don't know whether there's a
Yeah.
possibility of doing something like that.
Yeah. I'll mention that. In any event, even if, so we're talking about adding a crosswalk. So there's 3 crosswalks that won't change. Right?
Northern one.
Yeah. So even if those get approved and we're still working on the design for the other 2, you know? So,
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, instead of doing it all at once, do part of it. I mean, it's still better than what we have now.
and then maybe phase in 2.
Who approves, just out of curiosity, what, we're gonna add a crosswalk, right, which is gonna make the Sheffield Street crosswalk have to go to the north, right? Is what you had mentioned? Because we're gonna put a crosswalk to the Cape, is that accurate? When we do these events on the green, who approves that temporary white striping that goes across? It's state?
No, well, so anything we do on that road, we have to get state DOT to approve it. So that would be something that, just like when we do anything, the Torchlight Parade, it's automatic. So that is an automatic request to the state saying, hey, we have this event every year. That request probably goes in it'll go in next week.
Right.
For next year. Just like we do with the Torchlight, same thing. So that is state approved. The request comes from the chief, I'm sure.
Why can't we just get rid of the one at the end of Sheffield Street and force everybody to cross over in front of the gate? Let them come down the front of the,
Because
The
the middle
school.
school kids need a place to cross.
they come
He's
right
saying-
down the sidewalk and right,
Yeah,
it's the safest way around.
Yeah.
Coming around the side of that building,
well, I think it's also because of the traffic coming out of Sheffield, to have a cop there helping with the crossing and to be able to control traffic at that intersection. The chief is here. We were in a meeting with the chief and. So. All right,
All those cars trying to make that left,
That curve.
he needs that to be able to.
trust me, I go right. I
cross
try to cross over when I
Yeah.
go from home for lunch. It's like, you gotta go right almost.
seeing those cars come around that corner with the kids going.
Oh, I
up there,
know,
though,
it's so you.
It's only a disaster waiting to happen.
I know. The whole race season.
Okay,
Right at that crosswalk, we've had fails.
do we have any liaison reports? Do we have any comments from board members? Do we have any public comment? Do we have any comments from the chair? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
We stand adjourned.